pique my interest too much. Age of Empires 2. Why do you look really confused? What's going on? Are you all right?
It's just I'm just getting my notes up, so I'm just getting my notes up, so my laptop's running really. Hang on.
Oh, okay. Jeez, man. You really do need that new lappy from
What's
me,
that
don't you?
noise?
You're in
I
dire need.
do. I'm desperate.
Well, lucky for you, I should be tackling
I'm
that
just
stuff
closing
next
all my
week.
tabs.
So hopefully I can get it to you next week. I need you. You're my starlight.
Anything else here?
I don't know.
Didn't Venom just get added to Midnight Suns?
Yeah. Should I actually talk to you? Are you living again?
I think I'm coming back. I'm just getting my tabs closed, and
Okay,
you know my life force is going back up, so that's good.
Between me asking that question and you responding. Yes, Venom is out on Midnight Suns. I think he's already out because they did that free weekend on the game. And then I think he was releasing like that week after the free weekend. So yeah, he's already out. And I do kind of want to buy him. I think I want Deadpool a little bit more if I were to buy like a character. I could buy both. Yeah, you have to buy them.
I thought they were free updates.
No. They're like additional like content add-ons. It's like buying a character on like Mortal Kombat or something like that.
All right, I see.
Yeah, they're like £10, I think. But they come with their own little story missions as well. Like there's like a couple missions you have to do to like unlock them. So they have like loads of cutscenes and dialogue and stuff, and then you get them as a playable character for the remainder of the game. So
neat.
But obviously it's a lot of content. Like I'd be, surprised if they gave that away for free, because it's like when you add a character like that to a game like this, it's similar to like when you add like a character to like Slay the Spire or something like that, right? They each have so many cards, and all the cards interact with all the different heroes and all the different combos and different play styles and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of work that goes into it. So I'm not surprised they charge a little bit of money for it.
Well, Slay the Spire gave it away for free.
Yeah, I know, but I was just using that as an example, and I'm willing to give Firaxis my money anyway, because they need it, because the game didn't sell very well, and
they need it.
God, if that game is great, that's probably one of the best games I've played for a very long time. Like I have like zero fatigue on it at all from the hours I pumped into it already. Like I still just want to play it like all the time. It's really, really good.
Yeah, it's a damn shame that I know we've spoken about it before, but it's a damn shame that Xbox isn't supporting all owned games on cloud streaming yet. So I'll probably have booted it up by now.
Yeah, it'd probably be quite a good cloud streaming game. The thing is, I do feel like the reading of cards and text and all that might be a bit annoying on a phone. Like you'd have to like lean in and proper like concentrate just to read everything going on, and like enemy health bars and how much HP they've left and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it does come down to fine margins like that. I feel like you'd be squinting at your phone trying to figure out these things.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
But it would make a good cloud game, that's for sure.
Well, do you know what I've been doing?
Work.
Do you know what I've been playing? Well, I've been doing work. Yeah, I've been doing work.
Bit of work, bitch.
Yeah, I've been a work bitch, but I've made some time. I've carved out some time for some video games here and there.
Is this something that I know you've been playing, or should I try and guess? Like, is this something that I'm unaware of?
No, it's well. I'm trying to think if I've been playing. Oh, yeah, no, I did. I did start a new game. I did start a new single player game.
Oh, it's not Atomic Heart. You wouldn't have started that.
It's not Atomic Heart.
No.
I do want to try it, but yeah, not right now.
You started a new single player game.
Hmm.
Would have been Games Pass, obviously.
Would it? Would it?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
What have you
started Last
started?
of Us. I started Last of Us Part 2.
Okay. I would not have guessed that. I was thinking Xbox related. Okay.
No,
Nice.
I mean, it's not an Xbox podcast or anything. But I don't know why you'd think that.
Yeah, fuck me, right?
Yeah. So started that. Other than that, I've been playing a bit of the regulars. Been playing a little bit of Halo Infinite. Well, we've got a bit to talk about today with the season 3 trailer came out. We had the announcement for that. That's like next week or something. And then yeah, I've just been playing Overwatch 2. Got a battle pass to finish. I'm currently like enslaved to battle passes.
It's only just started,
which is
though,
a bit of a shame.
It's only like a week in or 2 weeks in, isn't it?
I think so, but it's just rough. It's rough out here. You know, we're a man down.
I do kind of want it. Like, I'm not like against playing Overwatch at the moment, but the only reason I would boot it up is to grind a bit of a battle pass at the moment. And I still think I'd have an okay time, but I'm not getting home from my day like I used to be and be like, yeah, let's grind out some Overwatch. But yeah, I feel like I have to. I mean, I would hate myself if I didn't get the Kiriko mythic skin.
You really would.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I would hate myself because she's my favorite character. Like genuinely, I think she's my favorite on the entire roster. So I do need to get a mosey on with that, and I think I'll probably be on this afternoon actually after the podcast. You can catch me live Twitch. Okay. But yeah, so I think I probably will play some of that and just see if I can spark that back up, because I'm sure once I actually do it, you know, you just get over that hump and just be like, oh, I am enjoying this more than I thought. You know, it's just I've just been in a bit of a routine playing like slower games and stuff like that on like a bigger TV, like chilling back on the sofa and stuff. But yeah, for sure.
I feel you. I mean, our friends are still playing it. You'll be happy to know. In fact, I've called solo and duo queue even without me. So you know, there's still energy. There's still energy there. You know,
how's
I'm sure
comp going. I saw you guys were playing a bit of comp. You guys got a rank yet, or?
I think one of the guys did. I haven't. I think comp, but we just grinded out last night. I think we won like 8 out of 10. It was pretty good.
Wow.
Pretty good session, to be honest. There's been quite a nice mid-season balance patch. You know, I don't want to hang on this too long for viewers, but yeah. So there's been some nice changes. You know, meta's swapped around a little bit. Yeah, and like I said, decided Last of Us Part 2. I'm probably like 5 hours in. I am so far very impressed with the visuals. No surprise, Naughty Dog do that sort of stuff. And the mocap all looks amazing. All of Sony's first-party studios are the same. All of their mocapping is just top-notch. Voice acting impeccable. I am a bit skeptical of this early story plot so far. Yeah, if you've played it, you know what I'm talking about. The thing that happens at the beginning of
I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I knew that this thing happened, but I didn't know it happened like in the first 2 hours of the game.
Yeah.
I am a bit skeptical of that. I mean, we'll see how it all comes together. So that's fine. And I'm quite impressed with the gameplay as well, to be honest. I think The Last of Us Part 1 is like a near perfect game. Like the first God of War, I think is like pretty much perfect. I thought some of the shootiness got a bit bland towards the end, but overall it didn't bother me too much. Still like a 9.5 or a 10 to me. But I wasn't sure how I was going to feel going into this one, but it's all the encounters are just it feels very slow. It feels very methodical. It feels like it really took a page out of Red Dead Redemption in the sense of like how the variety of animations and like the real attention to detail. Like when you like go to grab a can, there's an animation for it. It doesn't just vanish and go into your inventory. You know, when you swap weapons, you know, they like put it in their bag. It just little things like that just makes it very, very technically impressive. Again, we'll see how it goes in the long run. I'm only 5 hours in. You know, once I'm 40 hours in, that gameplay loop might start to wane a bit, but it feels very good and deliberate so far, and I'm quite impressed so far, to be honest.
Nice.
So we'll see. We'll see. We haven't done anything like a jingle yet, shall we? Should we do a form?
Oh yeah.
Sort of yeah. And how can you not? It's such a delightful little noise. You know, might as well bless our listeners with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I completely forgot about the jingle. Sorry, guys. We've just got a week off, you know? Everything's just gone out of whack.
Yeah, it's hard. And also, Tim, if you can be in charge of chat, please, because I don't want to repeat of last podcast where my audio kept cutting, so I don't want to get up on my head.
Okay, yeah.
That'd be great.
I mean, so far, I can't see anything. Hopefully, it's all working, but I can't.
Wow! What the fuck?
We start.
I mean, and it should be said,
no one shows up. What the fuck?
Yes. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it should be said, obviously, for all viewers, if you're new here, we usually do the show at 12:30 BST. We're doing it at 2 p.m. BST now. I've got the conversions on our Twitter of what that means for CST, PST, EST. Because we're aware that for a lot of our viewers, you're American. That's great. Hi. And that makes it very early in the morning for you. So we're hoping that this will get some more people in there. But we'll see how it goes. We're happy to be flexible and try the show a little bit later, maybe as well. Probably not too much later, but give us some feedback. That's all fine. So, hi everyone. If you're new here, my name's Deck. That guy over there, that's Tim.
Hello.
And we're the Quick Resume podcast, talking about all of the gaming news of the week, all of it, and some other funny stuff on the side. Tim.
Yeah.
How's have you had your ear to the ground this week?
No, I'm going to be honest. I don't really know too much about what's happened in the last week, maybe two. I've kind of been kept a little bit in the dark. I've just been really busy. Like, work's just been nuts, and we've been viewing like lots of properties and stuff like that, and we might potentially have found where we would be moving to. So, you know, stuff's starting to like escalate in all that regard. So I've just been a busy boy and everything outside of this. So no, I don't really know too much about what's going on this week.
Is that somewhere to rent? Are you looking somewhere to rent?
Somewhere to rent?
Rent.
Oh, no, we're buying. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Lovely.
In Newbury.
All right. Yeah, it's a funny old thing, buying places. It's really stressful. And I spoke about this with our other friend. He's on the cusp of buying a place as well. Like, it's really fun, like, for the first 2 or 3 viewings, and then the enjoyment just plummets because you're like, okay, like, I just get me into one of these. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Eventually, the whole novelty of it kind of just wears off, and you're like, yeah, I just kind of want this to be done. Yeah, for sure.
I'm tired of driving across the country for a 15-minute viewing to then drive back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, we kind of did the intro and kind of already. So I say we just get on with it. We've got like lots of little things, Tim. Obviously, the state of play happened. There was some of the updates. One of the big conferences in Brussels for the ABK acquisition. Some of the stuff we missed from last week, though, I've generally trimmed the fat. And last week was a pretty quiet week, so we've only got 1 or 2 things from there. Yep. Halo Infinite updates, and maybe a Starfield show coming or getting announced very soon.
Whoa.
So, I know.
If I were you
crazy.
guys, I'd hit that subscribe button. I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah. Just putting it out there. There's definitely not a C4 strapped to the bottom of your bed or wherever you are, your car, your bus, wherever you are.
It's fine. You're completely
If there's
safe.
a red light. if there's a beeping and there's a red light, just ignore it. It definitely has nothing to do with us.
It's normal. Very normal.
Tim, the Xbox Series X and S now support Google Home. Isn't that lovely? You have a Google Home, don't you?
I do have a Google Home. Yeah, I don't use it because I don't. I no longer live in that bedroom of mine, and
You didn't
living.
bring it with you.
Well, I no, because Tilly uses Alexa for everything. So she's got like Alexa in like two different
Yes.
spots of the house and lights and everything. So if I bring Google, it's just gonna be that's a war I don't want to start, you know.
Yeah, no,
So
fair enough. Yeah, imagine if you could just put them next to each other and just like set them off. But like, you know, Google Home and Alexa talk to each other.
they just
That'd be
argue
the
with each
fight
other.
argument,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah. But there's been a lot of that stuff with like Chat GPT, hasn't there? Like, because obviously Microsoft, this happened last week, I think, or maybe the week before, Microsoft like incorporated, the AI Chat GPT into Bing. And they're doing like limited invites at the moment, but you can like talk to Bing, which I think is quite scary, and also really emphasizes how shit of a name Bing is.
Yeah. Hey Bing. Bing.
Bing.
Search this for me, Bing.
Bing. Bing, why are you the way that you are? I mean, I just feel like there were so many like Bing, Mixer, Groove.
Yeah. There's some weird names.
I mean, Xbox needs to do Xbox. It was a Microsoft thing. Microsoft needs to do better with these names.
Yeah, their naming conventions have always been shocking. Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't know what it is. Like, is it just there's got to be someone at the top who's just like, because there are smart people at Microsoft, like good creatives, and they come up with all these sorts of names. And the Sue at the top is just like, nah, we don't want anything. Bing, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like stripped of all character. Like, what does that mean?
Fucking Bing, yeah. And it's just like, yeah, for the next Xboxes, yeah, we'll just slap an X on the end of it.
Yeah, that's
Xbox
it.
One X, Xbox Series X. It's their fucking issue with X, man.
Yeah, but the thing is, like with the whole Series X, that would be fine to me if that they kept that convention going forward. Like from now, if it's just like Xbox Series Y, Xbox Series, blah, whatever, fine. But once Phil is gone, and whoever, whenever, God rest his soul. No, I don't mean dead. I mean gone, sitting away from Xbox. They might change the convention again, and then we're back to like, this doesn't make any sense. Why have we gone from Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox Series X, and now it's like Xbox Pinecone? Do you know?
I'd buy that, to be fair.
Xbox Pinecone.
Is it like is it more eco-friendly than any other Xbox?
Yeah, maybe it emits a fine pine smell when it's on.
Yeah, out the vents, out the top. Mate, that's what they should do.
Yeah,
they should get like fragrance.
No, it's actually it's not a bad idea.
Get rid of the gamer sweat, the gamer smell in your room. You can make your room smell good while still gaming.
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah.
Not a fucking video. It does frighten me a bit. Because do you ever like think about what we were like when we were like teenagers? And we didn't shit ourselves. Just to like clarify, we didn't shit ourselves while we played video games. I don't think. I did vomit once though.
He did.
Yeah. But that was because I had to collect Nern roots in Skyrim, and I actually got a migraine because I couldn't find the last one.
No, that's fair dues, man. I'm pretty sure most people had a migraine from that quest, so you're in the majority there.
Yeah, that was a crazy night. Run into the bathroom to vomit on my own feet. Sick. That.
God.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I washed it off. Obviously, I didn't just walk back through the house. Yeah. All right, well, we got a couple of reports on updates on players for some Xbox first-party games. The first being Forza Horizon players. That's a big number. Holy crap, that's a big number.
How many players?
28 million.
28 million. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a whole planet, isn't it?
That is a lot. Yeah, it's a whole planet, yeah. All the
Huge.
important ones, anyway.
Yeah.
Please tell me you booted it up at one point. Are you going to get snapped out of Papa?
Wait, what? Booted it up?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Deathloop, Tim, Deathloop hits 5 million players, which is not that many. Yeah. Are we surprised by that number? You tell me.
No, I'm not surprised by that number. It's an Arcane game. I mean, that's an extremely high number for an Arcane game.
That's the thing. I don't know the figures for the other ones. I did have a quick look, but I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
I would imagine Deathloop is their most played game, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe it hasn't. Having said that, maybe like Dishonored, I don't know.
It's hard to say because Dishonored would have had like a lot of like afterburn from its like release because it was like hailed as like a, you know, like a really good game, you know, for such a long time now, like a really good series. So a lot of people would have still played it in the last like couple years or this year or something like that, you know. So all of that accumulating since its release is probably higher than Deathloop, but yeah, it's hard to say.
It's hard to say, especially because of the whole timed exclusivity thing. Like, I was going to say, I wonder if Deathloop has had more players per capita, but it's hard because it would have reached less players in the time it's been out. So, but I mean, just for like a comparison to like maybe smaller game, like Grounded hit 13 million in November.
Wow.
Grounded's been out for longer, I assume that includes the beta early access players as well. But it gives you a sense of 50 million in December as well, actually. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's a big fall.
What is it? What is it about those Arcane games, man? It's just impossible to market.
Yeah,
it's almost funny at this point.
Yeah, they just don't. They just make absolute bangers, and they just don't get the player base. I mean, it's still a lot of players. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they're making games that just die, or just don't get enough players. But it's just like they're deserving of more, but they just don't seem to get it. Yeah, it's strange. It's a cursed studio, that's for sure.
I do feel like they need to keep experimenting with their marketing so that they can actually give a sense of how these games play. I think somebody pointed out. I saw a comment. I think it was on YouTube that sort of said that I think they need to highlight the different ways that you could approach a single situation rather than showing a single walkthrough like you would in a typical game. I was like, that's a really good point actually, because for everybody who knows what these games are, you can do things, but it's maybe not transmitted that well when you're just showing a single walkthrough, like, they're in the open world, picked up a gun, shot a vampire, got in a building, shot a boy, and then it cuts away to the next scene. It's like, that doesn't really give you a sense of like, oh, well, I could have gotten through the front door, I could have climbed up, I could have found a key somewhere else, climbed into the sewers, come up through there, just stuff like that makes these games sort of pretty special and fun to play.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do think that would help it. Yeah.
I originally, actually, I don't know, maybe it's a good point to just quickly bring this up. Did you see the thumbnail I had on this video before today? Really?
I did.
I set up a video yesterday.
What was it?
It was just a lemon.
Oh, no, I did see it. Yes, I did. Yeah. Why was it just a lemon? Did that have any context at all? Or did you just have a lemon on your desktop and thought that would do?
Well, a bit of both. I mean, I think I made it on like Thursday night or something. Or like a lot of this news hadn't really hit yet. Some of the stuff we're going to go on to, the Starfield and probably the Halo Season 3 stuff is probably some of the bigger topics for today. And so really the only thing we had to talk about, like the big news, was the ABK conference. And I was like, I have done this so many times. I've like 20 times I've made an ABK thumbnail. And I'm like, I cannot be bothered. Where I go and get the image of it and I like cut around it and I put it on a shitty background and I say, oh, will it go through? And I just couldn't be bothered. So I just got a lemon and I pasted it. And that was it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't be
Jeez, sounds like
bothered.
you had an absolute crisis on your hands. You should have messaged me.
Help, please.
That sounds awful.
I need some support. And then as well, just to like top it off, I like went a little bit nuts in the description to try and like, I don't know, make sense of it, I guess.
Yeah.
What does it say? Have you got it open at the moment? Have you got the video? Like, are you able to see the description?
No, I mean I probably can, but I don't have it open right now.
Yeah,
No.
don't worry about it right now. It's because it's stupid. It's stupid, and I'm stupid for doing it. But it's just how I've also had a very busy week. I'm delirious.
Okay, I like it.
Okay, yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I could probably get it out right now.
Starfield. Okay, go on then. Go on. Humour me.
Okay.
Bearing in mind, this is when the thumbnail was a lemon.
Originally, the thumbnail was going
also-
to just be a lemon, and I had the below as a description. You might say that Xbox is being quite reSOURceful by outsourcing its games to Ninty and NVIDIA. Maybe if this proves to be a sours of the problem with regulators, it won't go south. I like it. Surprisingly, you did make that work. Like, not the worst. But then I realised that you
just
deserve
imagine
better.
me.
It's like a different paragraph. I didn't see that. I thought it just.
Now, just imagine me at 1:30 in the morning, and there's nothing. I've got a sleeping baby next to me. My wife is sleeping next to me, and there's just the blue light of my Mac shining on my face, and I'm just typing like
Some serious
reSOURceful, going
some
south.
serial killer vibes.
Yeah, no, it is. It wasn't my best. Is it sour like a lemon? Okay, Starfield, Tim, became the number one game on Steam this week, which is pretty good news. I can only assume this is because Hogwarts just came out and Sons of the Forest. That game's been popping off on Steam as well.
Yeah, they always
thoughts.
Do. Kind of makes sense, right?
You think?
I mean, this is like, I feel like this is everyone's successor to like Bethesda's next big RPG, right? This is what everyone is like. Oh, this is the shit they've been working on since Skyrim. You know, this is the shit they've been working on since all these beloved games we've known to love from this studio. You know, so it doesn't surprise me that it's this high up on the charts. Well, number one. Yeah, because it's just what everyone's been waiting for a very long time. I think it's just this next installment in the big, massive, just RPG genre that Bethesda do so well, and taking it in like a really cool different direction as well. It's not high fantasy anymore, you know. It's like sci-fi and space and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, no, I don't think this surprises me at all. In all honesty.
I'd say I'm a little surprised, and the reason is because, you know, maybe this is because I'm maybe a bit more plugged in to the like community sentiment and stuff. But there's been a lot of FUD, you know, a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around Starfield since the reveal, and this to me just kind of cuts through that and tells me like, that's a vocal minority, and I know it usually is, but sometimes, especially when you get a lot of like outlets reporting on something, it really gives you a sense that that's maybe the majority feeling, or that, you know, that's how the majority of the community is feeling. But I don't think, to me, this just indicates that actually, regardless of, oh, it's 1,000 planets, and what if they're all procedural and there's nothing on them, and what if it's not running at 60 frame? You know, the people don't really care, and actually, you know, a Todd Howard RPG is an event.
Exactly.
You know, we haven't had since Fallout 4. There's nothing like it, really, is there? You know?
No. Yeah, exactly. I think it just comes back to the point where it's just what everyone has been kind of waiting for. You know, it's this big next step for this studio that I think people still have a lot of trust in, you know, to make these sort of games, and I think people still see them as the pinnacle of this kind of RPG. So yeah, man. Yeah, to me, it genuinely doesn't surprise me to see it up there at all. And also, hello, Timmer. Timmer asked a question: what's the number of players you think Starfield will have? What do you think? Is this like opening weekend, Timmer, or just like we'll just say like opening?
That's a good question.
We'll just say like opening like few days. What do you think?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think what like other like Xbox numbers did, but it's hard to say because these games are big on PC as well. Like Halo, for example,
it's number one most wishlisted on Steam. It's gonna be massive.
Yeah. Because I think Halo did like 20 mil in a week or something, or maybe even just a week. Like Halo had big numbers very, very quickly. I would expect this would be higher if it pulls with good reviews. I'm just gonna double check that number. You tell me what you think while I check.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same boat as you. I'm not really the sort of person that sort of gets lost in all these opening numbers for game launches and stuff like that. So I don't really know what constitutes as like a good number or a high number or anything like that. But I'm just trying to think like again like what Hogwarts would have reached in like its opening weekend as well. But
oh man, that game's coming up to massive numbers. It's on like. So it was on like 800 million or something.
Really?
No, am I being stupid? 800 million. No, I don't know, man. There was a number. It was 800
million.
800,000. Someone will know. Hang on, I'm just gonna double check. I'm so lost in my typing on Google that I've typed Halo Hogwarts.
Halo Hogwarts. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh god. Yeah, I don't really know. I'll just go ahead and say like 10 mil. 10 mil opening weekend.
In the opening weekend, you think?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really a stats guy. Like I don't really follow that sort of stuff. I know Timmer, you're a massive stats guy. So it'd be interesting to see what you kind of think. It'll hit like sort of hype, like peak player count for like its opening weekend or something. Opening couple days. But yeah.
Yeah. You know, I know what you mean. It's hard to pull out a number unless you have like a good frame of reference, which is why I'm trying to.
But yeah, trying to find something.
I'm fairly sure. I'm fairly sure.
Oh no, 10 million is a lot.
Infinite. In the weekend, yeah, I reckon in the first week. Was it even like Forza Horizon?
I'll say 3 million. I'm going to go down a lot.
Yeah, you're talking about weekend.
Yeah, we're going to go like opening weekend, opening couple of days. I don't know when it releases. I don't know if it releases on a Tuesday, but we'll just say like, yeah, it's first.
Open Tuesdays. No, I think 10's pretty fair. I think I would, if the game reviews well, I think it could do 10 in a few days.
Yeah. Halo Infinite had 20 million players by January 2022, apparently.
Oh, by January. Okay, so it was a couple of months. Okay.
Yeah. No idea on opening. Yeah.
Interesting.
Regardless, Timmer, I think it's going to be massive. Like I said, this is like the next just installment on the Todd Howard RPG. You know, it's this shit. People have been waiting on this for a long time. And with the amount this is hyped up, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to saying like this is not far on like a scale of hype between, you know, this and probably the next Elder Scrolls, like Elder Scrolls 6. You know, hype is probably just as high, like if you compare these two. You know, so it'll be big. 15 million.
Yeah, they're comparable for sure.
Timmer thinks.
Interesting. So, I would say 10 mil in the week. I do think, I don't know, maybe I'm being silly. Sometimes I don't know too much weight to review scores, but I think games more than any other medium are positioned to be more influenced by reviews because of how much of a money and time sink they are.
Yeah, these days.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like someone's more likely to grab reviews for a 70 quid game because of that. It's a bigger sink.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's just so much better. Like, there's so much like value for money these days with things coming to subscription services and stuff like that. I know this is on Games Pass. And yeah, with the games releasing at like £70 a pop as opposed to being a lot cheaper back then, people are a lot more skeptical with their purchases and they wait on reviews and stuff like that. So I think generally that number will be lower. Apparently Fallout 4 did 12 million on day one. So, but then Fallout 3 was like, again, Fallout 3 was like Skyrim for a lot of people. It was like pinnacle RPG. Like Fallout 3 was like one of the biggest games like ever, like in the genre. So it's not surprising its sequel did that. Yeah, exactly. This isn't a sequel, so I don't think it will drum up as much hype off the back of like an absolute cult classic of a game. So, but yeah, I imagine it'll be around 10 to 15 million. Like, it's going to be massive. But yeah.
God, I hope they don't fuck it up.
Yeah, me too. God, if they fuck it up. We still don't have a release date for it, do we? I think we're going to be talking about this later in the podcast, is it? Or something? Is there something? No? Oh.
We will. I'm just trying to find the... what channel would be best for this? Maybe IGN showcase. I'm trying to have a look at the view count for the Starfield showing we had last year to get an idea for viewers. So on the IGN channel, the 14 minutes of gameplay they showed at the showcase, last year, is about 500k. So it's quite a lot of views. Funnily enough, their performance review has even more views, 600k. Which it's
because people love pixel zooming, don't they?
Yeah. Official gameplay reveal on the Bethesda channel is 4.3 million. So big reviews. I'm sorry, big numbers on the views, and I reckon the showcase that they've got coming up is going to be massive. Like, because I assume that they're going to show off a nice bit of gameplay, the RPG mechanics, maybe some other things that we don't really know about the game yet. And they're also going to give us a release date, and release dates tend to get more viewership because they're more concrete, right?
Yeah.
Either way, I'm glad Tim is here.
Yeah.
To give us the numbers.
Man's a stat machine.
Yeah. We will be coming back around to Starfield, so if you're interested in that, do hang around, especially as we sort of speculate around this showcase that's coming up. Will it be a developer direct? Will it be a Bethesda showcase? And I ran a poll on this, Tim. I've been doing polls on our Twitter, and the engagement's been good. It's been not bad. Yeah, it's not been bad.
Great.
So we'll come back around to that. Yeah,
Cool.
Thanks. Unless is it 13 or 14 of your alt accounts, is it?
Nah. Don't know what you're talking about.
It's not
Moving
this
on.
time. No, okay, well that's good. No, moving on. Yeah, okay. Minecraft is coming to PlayStation Plus in March. Oh, that's a weird thing to talk about. Why on earth are these gimps talking about that? You know why? Minecraft, I should probably specify, Minecraft Dungeons is what I mean. That's a first party game. Yeah. And you might recall Xbox drawing significant criticism from the regulator, them, not sharing shit with other subscription services. Not that anybody else does that with Xbox, but of course Xbox have to do that with other platform services.
I mean, Xbox are making the 70 billion purchase, to be fair, but yeah.
And so I think there is something to be said here about Xbox wanting to butter up the regulators a little bit. But the thing is, because obviously there's a difference between making big IP like Minecraft or Call of Duty other platforms versus putting them on their subscription services. Like Xbox has no incentive to do that, really.
No, definitely not.
Because I would assume Xbox doesn't see any money that is made by a PlayStation Plus subscription purchase.
I mean, maybe they would in regards to how many downloads, clicks, or playtime is played on a certain game underneath a PlayStation subscription service. If it's owned by them, they will receive some form of money from that. Like, if there were PlayStation subscribers that just played Minecraft, 2 million people played it on release for 500 hours a pop, they're not going to get zero out of that. No, they're going to get money for that.
I guess it depends, yeah, or maybe Sony upfront, paid a bit of money to get it on.
Yeah, potentially that. Yeah.
So either this is just straightforward economics, or there is a little bit of sweetening here, because of the current regulator situation.
Without a doubt, it's to do with the ABK. Yeah, it is. There's not a second thought in my mind. Like it's totally to do with that. Yeah. It's like all the other, we'll talk about later in the podcast as well, everything else they did. Again, it's all in regards to just help pushing that deal through, fulfilling on promises and, that they've talked about doing in the deal. So.
Yeah, it's a funny one. It's a funny old one. And then last up, kind of in the honourable mentions for the week, is the state of play. I just wanted to have a bit of a... you watched it, no?
Yeah, I watched it.
What did you think?
I thought overall it was actually pretty bad. I thought that Suicide Squad looked great. And I thought the Baldur's Gate was kind of cool, even though it's not really my vibe. I thought it's a pretty big deal to get that like times exclusivity and to have that on your show and stuff like that. Because I know Baldur's Gate is a very popular like RPG, I guess. Is it just called an RPG, or have they got like a different genre? Like they're
it's like a CRPG, yeah, classic RPG.
Okay, yeah. So, but I mean, nothing really blew me away on the PSVR like segment. I'm just trying to think of what else there was. The rest of it was kind of nothing and a bit of filler. So like there was a couple of big things in there, but yeah, to me it wasn't the best show, to be honest. But yeah, Suicide Squad looked good.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Baldur's Gate, because that's been subject of immense controversy, since that came out. Well, since the trailer, because obviously it was only announced for PlayStation 5. We all assumed, like you just did, that it was a timed exclusivity thing. But then everybody called up Larian Studios on an interview they did maybe 2 years ago, and when they said that they're not going to do any exclusivity for Baldur's Gate 3. And then they replied, I think on Reddit, and they said, there's no exclusivity on this. It's just essentially what appears to be PlayStation's marketing, saying obviously they're not going to advertise it for their Xbox Series. But what they did say is, well, this is the thing. I'm speculating when I say that, but because what they said was, we just haven't gotten the split screen running to a good enough standard on the Xbox yet that we were happy to announce it. And there's been a lot of conversations around that this week, and like, is this because of the Series S, and is that slowing down development, and that's why? I think you lot are crazy. I just think they needed a reason to say Probably. They needed a reason for like why they weren't going to announce a PlayStation show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, okay, yeah. Maybe it wasn't difficult to get split screen running on the Series S, but I don't think it's going to come out any, like, if they've committed to that no exclusivity, like with their community, I don't think the Xbox version is going to come out a month later. It either has a contract or it does. Like, because also it doesn't make any strategic sense to release like unless they do a PlayStation contract, which all these games do, where it comes out literally a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 later to the Xbox consoles, it doesn't make sense to stagger the release by 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? They
No.
would just say, we're
Yeah.
just going to push back the multi-platform release by 2 weeks so we're ready for the Xbox consoles. Because otherwise the hype period will pass and people won't be able to buy it on their Xboxes, and that's money down the drain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just like you said, it was just an excuse probably to just have it only with PlayStation's logo plastered on it for the show. But yeah, I mean, I think it will probably release on both at the same time, right? Yeah.
I'm fairly confident it will. Unless there is some changing of money here, which it doesn't look like there is. They're being up. The Xbox split screen version isn't at the quality level that we want yet, and so we weren't ready to show it, I guess. But we'll see. I mean, maybe this is a good segue into that kind of conversation. I mean, we'll swing back around to the rest of the state of play. But this has brought up a lot of feelings again about the Xbox Series S. Tim, we're like, how far into the gen are we now? 2 years? Is that right? Yeah, just over 2 years. Yeah. How are you now feeling about the Series S? Obviously, when it was announced back in the day, there were a lot of commentators saying, "Oh, this is a mistake, not just for Xbox but for the industry, because it's going to hold some games back." And then a lot of people are drawing comparisons between like the technical success of a lot of the PlayStation games because they only have to develop for one SKU versus maybe some of the ones on the Xbox Series X and S. A lot of people feel that they aren't comparable, subjective. And with all of that in mind, the Series S nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had a problem with the Series S from the moment it was released to now. I think it's a pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good decision for Microsoft to do, to be honest, to make this slightly cheaper, more affordable console for gamers that could still, perform at a next gen level. And I think when, again, I don't know any of the technical details behind the developing of all this sort of stuff, but when you're kind of developing these games for Series X and PS5, they all come with resolution and graphics modes anyway. So I feel like when they kind of make that, I feel like it's just a case of taking that sort of performance mode and adapting it slightly for Series S. Like, I don't really think there's much in it when it comes to, it's not like they develop the Series X one first and then they have to develop it from scratch again or really put in some work for the Series S version. I think it is just a case of just scaling down a little bit, probably from the performance mode that they've already developed for the Series X or something like that. Or the resolution mode and just turning off like ray tracing and stuff like that and just getting that to run. Like I can't imagine it sets back development that much, if I'm honest, but I don't know. But yeah, I feel it's good.
That's kind of the crux of the argument, though, isn't it? Like, especially with Xbox's ecosystem now covering PC as well. Like, there are someone correct me if I'm wrong, but the figure that I've read is that there's approximately 50% of the PCs that are registered on Steam database are weaker than the Series S specs. So when we're talking about games being held back, surely if anything, they're being held back by weaker PCs, and this kind of scaling games isn't anything that's new.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the RAM, but typically like computers and gaming computers tend to have more RAM than maybe the Series S has access to. These are the things I've read Dota. And the thing is, once you start getting into the weeds of like specs of stuff, you start getting into theoretical territory. Do you know what I mean? I don't fucking know, man. Like, you can tell me something because we look at like the whole PS5 thing as well. Like, on paper, we all thought the Series X was going to come out on top on the PlayStation 5. And I think for the most part, it is coming out on top on multiplats. But there are some games where that's definitely not happening. And there's definitely some games where PS5 is performing better than the Xbox Series X in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And you could maybe argue that that's because the PlayStation is the dominant console, more effort goes into polishing it. Marketing contracts, we've seen these contracts that have said like it can't perform better on the Series X than it can on our console. We've seen these contracts, and might be standard across the board. I don't know, but like, so it's hard to really pin it down to whether it's the specs or not. But nonetheless, I think when we tie this back into the Series S conversation, I think it's really hard to say if there is any sort of holding back going on. And tentatively, I want to say no still. And I feel like there's a net benefit there, right, of getting more people in the door because it's insane value for money. It's the Game Pass. I know people who are not really into gaming that much who are getting one.
Yeah.
Because the value is so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it would be interesting to actually have that deep dive and really just get the answer to whether or not, things are slower to progress or things do perform slightly worse, as a result of Series S. I mean, the fact is we really just don't know. But based on the like you said, the evidence of like PC and all the scaling that's been going on since PC gaming has ever been a thing. You can buy Horizon on your PC and play it, and it kind of looks like shit if your PC is not running that great. But you can still play it. They give you the options to do all this still. Obviously, you're scaling it from a completely different tech stack. Maybe it's easy to build those scaling options on a PC platform rather than the Xbox. I don't know, but I can't imagine there's too much in it. And based on that, everything else the Series S brings to the ecosystem is just so good for a user and a consumer. From like an entry level console being so cheap, and then just picking up Games Pass and just hit the ground running so quickly with all these great games. I feel like that outweighs any other potential harm it might be causing anyway. So
absolutely. And just speaking about that kind of that cost benefit of like sales or game versus performance, it reminded me of the the VG chart sales figures that came out for last month, I think it was, and by God, did the PS5 have a gargantuan past month. I guess stock came in finally, and I think that the God of War, this is sort of picking up on the God of War train really kicked in. It outsold the Switch. That's how it did well. Switch still sold really well, but it just had a very, very good month.
Yeah, it did. And we did talk about that, didn't we, when we were talking about like sales numbers like way back when, and we were just like, like Xbox level with PS5 and stuff like that. And we were saying like we have a hunch that it's just because like stock is just not really available for PlayStation, and we probably will see that number shoot up again. And yeah, obviously we were right. I mean, the PlayStation is still the dominant next gen console, I think, out of the two. Xbox is still playing catch up by like quite some margin.
Yes.
So yeah,
and I guess that's kind of the interesting thing, but catch up, maybe that's a good conversation to have as well, because like feasibly, like how close do you think Xbox could get to catching up with the PlayStation this gen? And I guess this kind of depends on what metric you're looking at, because if we're talking about public perception, or we're talking about something specific like exclusive games, or if we're talking about like sales, like I don't know, are sales going to matter all that much? Especially if we're talking about people getting access to Game Pass through their TVs, through their phones, backwards compatibility. People can cloud, forward stream isn't a term. They can stream. Maybe it should be. Maybe I've just made it up. You can stream next gen games. Forward stream,
PM it quick.
So so in a sense that kind of it kind of cannibalizes their own sales a bit. So I mean, what do you think? Like, is it possible if like from this year onwards, Xbox has knockout year after knockout year, like, do you think we could be at a stage by the end of the gen and the start of the next gen where the two are actually neck and neck, or do you think that's still not really going to be possible?
I don't think it's going to be a thing, especially for like hardware sales, like you said, with just the direction Xbox is taking everything, just making it accessible and like basically a lot of hardware that just isn't, the sole hardware that you need to play it, like a PlayStation would be. Xbox are definitely going down a route where you can play it on loads of different things. So I think it'd be interesting to compare the figures of like Xbox games, Xbox exclusive games, and their player count over over PlayStation exclusive games like God of War and their player count rather than actual hardware sales. I think in that regard, you're probably going to see an increase, potentially an overtake, to say like Starfield hit more numbers
Ooh.
than God of War or something like that, potentially. But that's because I feel like that's
Yeah.
the figure you should look at because it's accessible in so many other platforms rather than actual hardware sales. I think hardware sales will always be behind PlayStation. I do believe that.
I think that's really interesting. And I think I think that a
You're
little bit in their
really
strategy. And
say everything you just said again. You had a lag spike.
oh, did I? Oh
Yeah.
shit. Okay, I'll try again. I think you're right because these two companies have really diverged in their strategy. Where PlayStation have stuck to the traditional console model of tentpole exclusives to sell consoles, Xbox are really more lowering barrier to entry, making Game Pass accessible. And that's sort of it. So you're right. I think monthly active users really is again the maybe more important metric
Yeah.
that we could be comparing by the end of the gen. I don't even think you have to compare exclusives for that because, like for example, Fortnite, free to play game being streamable through the cloud. And we saw that's done really well, apparently. That's a win for Xbox, right?
Yeah.
It is in their ecosystem. If they're getting those V-Bucks
Yeah.
on the Xbox, that's money for Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really interesting. I find that really, really interesting because every time we have this conversation or journalists have this conversation, it's always like, oh, look at the sales. Xbox is far behind. It's kind of like, well, yeah, no shit. I mean, Xbox, the console is part of the strategy. Don't get me wrong. It's a chunk. It's a large chunk of the strategy, but it's not the full strategy.
No.
Whereas it's entirely PlayStation strategy. They've no other way of
Yeah.
making money other than the PSVR 2, and well,
Although they are
not doing so well.
they are starting to shift things into the PC ecosystem, seeing Horizons and God of Wars eventually make their way to PC.
That's right.
And maybe that's because they're starting to think the same thing. Like the numbers are in the IPs, the games, the monthly active users rather than the actual hardware sales, a little bit as well. So, but maybe they're just catching on a bit slow, or maybe they're just trying to take some of that market share away. But yeah, 100%. I think that's Xbox's goal is when they sit down and have these meetings, they're probably like, let's not look at the hardware sales per se. Let's look at the IP sales. Let's get those as high as possible. Let's get these total monthly active users as high as possible. It doesn't matter what platform they're on. It doesn't matter where they're playing it. Let's just make it accessible all round. And if Starfield hits 2 billion, but only 250 million of that is on Xbox hardware, who cares? Starfield is
That's right.
fucking absolute successful certified banger. It doesn't matter how you're playing it. Play it on your fucking Nokia. It doesn't matter.
Well, that's right, because like we had this conversation a while back too, and like in the year it was out or something, it only made 10 million sales or something, which really isn't that many, all things considered. And I guess, like, it's such a knife edge. I feel like that traditional such a knife edge. And I mean, I guess we'll see. We know PlayStation Studios are working on a lot of live service games now. So maybe their approach changes over the rest of the generation as well. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, it's just got me thinking. It gets to you know, that sort of stuff. Doesn't it?
We don't like that. We don't like to think. Stop.
Me see, me react, me monkey. Yeah, I guess that's fine. We can come back to this a little bit when we speak about Starfield. Get this. So I guess the other thing, the other sort of like conversation being around Suicide Squad. Yeah, and my immediate reaction on Twitter was like, this actually was pretty good. I sent the same message to our friend group, didn't I?
Yeah.
And then, as per usual, log off, have a look around the rest of the internet. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. I'm offended.
Let me guess, people were offended at the store and battle pass tabs and specifics. Yeah,
you'd be right. And also, don't forget, it's always online. Have Wi-Fi. They're all in submarines.
It's true.
In the Atlantic Ocean, so they can't play Suicide Squad. It's a shame.
Yeah, that is rough. I guess they'll just suicide.
It's hard for them.
Not Suicide Squad.
I guess. Yeah, that's good. No, I liked it. And I think, you know, I'm in two minds because I watched it and I was like, this is fun. But don't get me wrong. The scene is like, why does everything have big purple testicles on it? Why does Boomerang Man use guns as his primary weapon?
But also, Captain Boomerang looks the sickest out of all of them. Did you see some of the shit he was doing with like the teleports and shit? My God, that character looks insane. I feel like he was like the coolest by like a fucking mile over the rest of them. Like the way he played. But yeah, I agree. He's not using boomerangs.
Yeah. I feel like thematically, you know, it fits Deadshot and probably Harley, but and Shark Boy, why has he got guns? He's like a big Hulk man.
Yeah, I'd like if he like ate people and shit like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, dive into the concrete and like swim around like in the gravel, you know?
Yeah, that could be kind of cool. Yeah, like a shark. I see what you're doing.
Yeah, like a shark. Yeah. Overall, I thought it was a good showcase. I was like, I'm closer. I'm like, I wasn't very excited for it before, but now I'm like, oh, actually, it's on my radar. You know,
it looks fun.
But I think, you know, yeah, it looks fun. I agree, and like more than anything else, it's really fun. There's a lot of like, I saw a lot of people complaining about like weightlessness and like because a lot of the shooting was in the air. But I was like, I think that's like that makes this stand out. Like I don't think it's taking itself that seriously. No. I mean, maybe there's a bit of tonal disconnect with the cutscenes because some of the cutscenes were taking themselves quite seriously, but the story looks quite cool. Overall, it just depends how it comes together with that sort of stuff. I mean, what were your kind of thoughts on some of what I just said there?
My thoughts were kind of exactly the same, to be honest. I thought it just looked really fun, and from like the moment I started seeing everyone jumping around and flinging themselves around the city and shooting shit and blowing stuff up and doing cool abilities, I was like, this is going to be fun, like to play this with 4 of my friends and just fucking leap around the city. Like, and immediately I saw you message me, I forgot to reply to it, but I was even watching this with Tilly and I was like, it's giving me like a mix of like Crackdown and like and just like a standard like third person shooter sort of feel to it, you know, like with this sort of skin on it, Suicide Squad skin on it. And yeah, with how disappointed I was in Crackdown 3, this got me pretty buzzed that maybe this will scratch that itch. Yeah. I know Crackdown 3 was great and it really utilized the power of cloud gaming. But it just
what do you mean? Game of the year, game of the decade. I loved hearing Terry Crews like shout at the microphone from 60 yards away. Why was he so quiet in that game? Why has nobody spoken about that? Why is nobody speaking about the fact that it sounds like he's put 4 pairs of socks over the microphone when he speaks? Is he just really loud? Is he just a loud guy? Is that why? I fucking out, Terry, please.
Yeah, they were literally like, our options are we turn him up by 0.1% and he peaks the mic all the time, or we have him really quiet. Like there's no in between. He's so loud. But yeah, it just, to me, it just looked like loosey goosey, doesn't take itself too seriously, have a good time, blow shit up, and it just looked fun, man. Like it looked like it had a level of polish to it as well. That Rocksteady
Yeah.
do as well. Like it didn't look jank like some of these games can be. So yeah, no, I was quite excited for it. I've always said I was quite excited for Suicide Squad. The whole Battle Pass store thing got me a bit annoyed, seeing it's a full price game, but it's not the end of the world. The stuff's still optional. I'm sure there's still plenty to do in the game, plenty to collect, and cool cosmetics as well. So yeah, I'm excited. It's been on my radar and it continues to stay on there. Yeah, it looks good.
Cool. And I suppose the final kind of half of that conversation was around this kind of trend now, unfortunately, that has been rubbing people the wrong way of like 4-player cooperative games, maybe with a bit of an always online connection thing there as well. And you know, we've spoken about this before. We've ribbed on this kind of community sentiment before, but like just people being pissed off by co-op games all the time.
Yeah.
And like the only thing that the Twitter majority, vocal minority, wants to have is a gritty, single player, grounded, third person action, story driven. It's like, oh my god, please, we can have other games. It's okay. Like we know you don't have friends, but some of us do. So
yeah, I mean, I do feel like that is a majority of gamers, unfortunately. And that's why a lot of these games, you know, they tend to fall into that sort of routine of being that kind of game, like you were just saying. But I find it, you know, like these are the games that I'm looking for. These are the games I'm pushing through the fucking weeds to get to, and to find these 4-player fun fucking co-op games and stuff like that. Because generally speaking, like 80% of my game time, I am in a party with friends and I want to play the same game as them, and I want to be playing this game co-op, I want to be playing it multiplayer, that sort of thing. And yeah, again, I don't think there's enough of them. We've always said this, like I think more are cropping up, but we've always said that there's just not enough games that do this sort of thing. And I think it's because it's risky. It genuinely is risky, and it gets a lot of hate when it doesn't fall into this formula that everyone wants. But yeah, I respect them for doing it, and literally in the trailer as well, they were literally just like, yeah, you can play it solo, but it's much more fun to fucking smash up the city with 4 of your friends. Like they literally said that almost like word for word without like the F-bomb.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, they've gone right out and said like, fucking play it 4-player. Like get some friends, losers.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's, and I guess maybe what, like maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I guess maybe sometimes gets the community rubbed the wrong ways that these sorts of games do tend to have an association with like heavy monetization, which is probably fair. Like a lot of these 4-player co-op games tend to be monetized instead of just being like a one and done 4-player co-op experience. You know, in the same way that like Monster Hunter is, right? That's one of the few remaining ones that's just like you just buy it, it's chock full of content, and that's it. You're not expected to pay for anything else. There's no battle passes.
Which I find, I don't want to cut you off, but I feel like that's kind of strange that the 4-player co-op games are the ones that have the monetization, the store, the cosmetics, and all that, like always shoehorned in. Do you not find that like really weird that they go extra greedy when the fact, like, because it's a 4-player co-op game, you're already incentivizing 4 separate purchases of 4 people to play it together, you know, over like a single player game. And then they also shoehorn in all this stuff anyway. Like it's weird that the game that kind of needs a higher entry of initial purchases also just tries to fucking get even more greedy. You'd like to think that it would be the games that only have like the one-off purchase, the single player games that try and get you that way and to get you to spend more. It's weird. It's weird to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think there's something also said about like cooperative games and then like live service, like MMO like games like Destiny or Division. I think that gets really blurred sometimes, like especially when you look at games like I'm like this, or like Outriders was another one where they were like staunchly before launch were like, this isn't live service, but then it like kind of was, because there isn't really a fixed definition of what live service is. It's like, if you release one piece of post game DLC, is that now live service? Do you know what I mean? And so as a result, I feel like publishers, when devs are making these games, there is kind of an idea that they want to support it for a little bit because there's going to be a community of people playing it. But if it's kind of a 4-player co-op rather than like a shared world thing, it's then kind of like, why would we want to keep replaying it? Borderlands is maybe another one. That's kind of like standalone, but then that became a live servicey.
Yeah.
And they said the same thing. They're like, it's not going to be a live service, but like it kind of is, which isn't a problem necessarily. It's just hard to define. And I think those gray areas are what makes the community just immediately upset, because they can't pigeonhole it into one thing or another. It's kind of like, oh, well, if there's more than one player and it's cooperative, then it must be a live service, games as a service sort of thing. And that means I'm going to get, unfairly swindled and pickpocketed and all the rest.
Yeah. It is funny that, isn't it? Yeah. It's weird.
And the some other sentiment I've seen, is around, but again, in this kind of genre of games, that I can't think of all that many in the 2 years, but the ones that just come to mind are ones like Back 4 Blood, Outriders, this, arguably Redfall coming up. Again, Redfall doesn't appear to be a live service. It does have the online requirement, but you can play. They've heavily been like, that you can. We've balanced this around single player as well. Whereas a lot of these other games haven't necessarily done that.
Yeah.
And the conversation has a little bit been around like AAA games making a game that was trendy 5 years ago, but because they take so long to make, by the time they come out, there's a lot of community fatigue. I mean, what do you think about that kind of idea of games taking so long that by the time they come out, they've kind of missed their moment? Like, I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, I do kind of think that does happen. And I do think that's probably what happened to Outriders as well, a little bit. Like, I know that game had a massive launch and stuff like that, but I think people dropped off pretty quickly when they realized it was kind of the same as what a lot of other games do and what Destiny does and stuff like that, but kind of more shallow. And I think that fatigue like set in very quickly on that game, and they were just like, well, if we're going to play a game like this, which is quite similar in a lot of ways, let's play the one that's been around longer and is deeper and is, not quite as it's not finding its feet as much. So yeah, I do definitely agree that sometimes it just takes too long to develop and they kind of miss their mark with the popular stuff. But then a game doing well, and a game being developed well in that area, if they make it well enough, they shouldn't hit that fatigue. I do think the fatigue hits because they have just tried to copy it. Where I feel like if you bring enough fresh ideas to the table and enough polish and enough depth and stuff like that, I don't think that fatigue is a thing, really. It's just a lot of people do just kind of copy paste with a different skin sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like quality is evergreen. And there's some types of games that will always have a long-standing appeal. Like just your standard single-player story game is never going to get old because that's the closest thing we have to a movie.
Yeah.
Story is the thing that's been around. It's closest thing to a book. You know what I'm saying. So anything that I think diverges further and further away from that is going to be riskier. I'm
Agree.
sure there's more in that calculation somewhere, but yeah, no, it's just an interesting topic. Okay, right. I'm really hot, so I'm just gonna take this hoodie off right now. I'm
Yeah.
lighting. If for some reason the sun's out, I don't know why. It hasn't been out in a long time. So I'm happy to move on to some of the main news here. So
Yeah.
Tim, just introduce the next topic for us, please, about Game Pass killing and cannibalizing Xbox. I'll be right back.
Okay. Wow. This is quite the hot topic for me to introduce. Um yeah, so again, I don't really know too much about this, to be honest. I think there were like articles that came out about this. That let me just read through this. Given.
Oh,
Okay. I mean, to be honest, man, it was kind of a hard one to do because I don't really know too much about this.
you covered it, yeah?
Yeah, no, not really. Hey, Joaquin, by the way, hello. Glad you could join us.
Hi.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I caught like headlines of this, but I don't know too much like in like actual depth about this. All I know is that, yeah, I mean, outlets are saying Game Pass bad.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
as per.
but yeah, you can take it.
Well, what happened is that during the CMA, well, as part of the CMA investigation, there were documents in there that indicated that Game Pass cannibalized their own Xbox's sales of games, which is like, yeah, of course. I mean, like we've spoken about this before, of this kind of idea that there are some games that this is going to happen for, and then there are some games where this maybe doesn't happen for. And a lot of outlets jumped on this because back in like 2018, Phil himself said, when Game Pass came out, he was like, well, we're actually finding that there's some games that are selling better when they're on Game Pass, which was like quite surprising to a lot of us. And the context for that might have been that because Game Pass was new, we're still buying their games while trying Game Pass, or it might just be the case that there are just straight up some games that there's a type of game that does still get bought, regardless of it being in there or not. And the whole thing was that a lot of prediction as if it makes a difference to any of us. Like, I don't give a shit if these games don't sell. I get them for an absurd value. But there's a lot of, as always, there's a lot of things, and it's like, we games aren't selling, Xbox dead. Xbox bad, Xbox dead.
Yeah.
So the thing that I'm essentially trying to said that every game that goes in Xbox increases in sales. That's not what he said. I think he pointed to State of Decay 2 and he pointed to Forza Horizon 4 at the time. It was never said that every game's going to sell more. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, which I think that's very normal to assume that certain games are going to perform different to others inside a Games Pass, like you said. Like, I feel like if you chucked in like a party game into Xbox, like a Party Animals or something like that, or something that encourages multiple downloads of friend groups to all hop on and play at once, those sort of games, games that maybe have like a battle pass and store transactions as well as their way to profit, those sort of games are going to probably hit a little bit harder on Xbox than others. I think it's absurd that how generalistic they were being with the whole thing when it's probably only a couple of outliers, and they're just like, they're killing themselves, they're committing harikiri on themselves every time they put a game into Games Pass, which is absolutely not the case. I feel.
I saw everybody jumping on it though, Tim, regardless.
Oh mate, it was everywhere. Yeah, it was literally everywhere. Yeah.
Game Pass cannibalizes sales. And it's just irritating, man, because like people do see this stuff, and I don't know why there's this real fascination with like the economics of Xbox's approach, like because they're giving such good value, and for some reason the dominant conversations are always like, oh, Xbox is how much money is Xbox made? When will the price go up? It's not just like this week you're saving $3,000. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it's tiring.
It's
just
just
being like, oh, when will it get worse?
yeah, it's almost like what do they want? Are they trying to get Phil to start charging us more? Like, come on, stop.
Yeah.
Like, Phil's eventually just gonna snap, be like, fine, fuck it. Games Pass is
Yeah.
£400 a month, you fuckers. We're gonna rake it
Yeah.
in because that's apparently what all that matters. Yeah.
And the only game that's staying on there is Peppa Pig.
Yeah, and my upcoming
That's it.
cheeseburger.
Yeah, Phil's favorite title, and it's interesting. It is a bit time capsule because having a look back at the interview that he spoke about, initially when Game Pass first came out, and he gave a lot of those answers. He said, number one, subscriptions won't dominate games distribution. It's more about choice. Still true. Game Pass subscribers play more games and they play more genres. It's a discoverability tool, which personally I don't think they lean into enough in the marketing department. Maybe that's just hard to market, but I know I've played games that I maybe wouldn't play without them for sure. And that's been wonderful. I've said on the podcast loads of times, it's been transformative in the way that I play games. Even if I don't finish games, I try some, and I'm glad I got to, because games have a really high barrier to entry these days. And we're lucky we're in this timeline where games are kind of affordable and like commercialized in the sense that we can have them in our own homes. Like there's some where games got more expensive and platform holders decided this isn't feasible. We don't like front loading. We don't like taking a loss on console sales and then being reliant on software sales. So we're just going to make Xbox arcades and PlayStation arcades, and you can go there and you can play these big games for £5 an hour. Do you know what I mean? There's some timeline where that happened.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really good that we have this low barrier to access way to try games. Yeah. So that's the gist of it. But it's old news by now. So tired of. I just thought it was a bit silly how quickly everybody was willing to jump on it, and also the word cannabalise. They used it in their own documents, but
very extreme.
It just feels like an extreme word, and it's like fucking, because everything's in the context of fucking acquisition. Like nothing can be trusted anyway, and that like, because what we're going to get round to just now is like a lot of stuff they said at the conference this week. They was like, oh, worldwide the market share is like 80-20 from PlayStation to Xbox, which obviously ties into our conversation earlier about will Xbox catch up by the end of the gen, depending on how you define catch up. So yeah, funny stuff.
Definitely.
Funny, depending on your perspective, very funny. All right. I didn't think I saw anybody talk about this, but I grabbed one of Double Fine's new games. They're working on 2 out-and-outs projects at the moment, and one of them might be a game called Kiln, Kiln. Tim, if you could share maybe the screenshot that's one of the screenshots. I've changed my mind about playing the video because it might not be for public viewing yet. Like, I don't want to get like copyright strike.
Okay. So
maybe just a screeny.
Oh. What, like in the actual document?
With the title on it. No, just the one in the notes is good. With the little weird pop men and the kiln in the bottom left corner.
Okay. So literally just like with your actual screenshot you put in the doc.
Yes, please.
Oh, why is that not working?
And I just wanted to. Oh, you just figure that out while I go over it. I didn't see anybody really talking about this. I guess maybe it's a bit what it appears to be is a multiplayer team-based brawler with a focus on creating unique player sculpted characters, physics-based animations, and destruction. And that's a summary from Idle Sloth. So thank you, Sloth. And I had a look at the gameplay for this. I'm sure you can find it if you just Google Kiln Double Fine project. There appears to be some prototype gameplay floating around. It looks really interesting and really funny. You're like little pot men. You like shape your own pots, like it spins round and you properly shape it how you want because it's physics based. And then you've got to like fill yourself up with water and get it from one side to the other. And obviously, depending on how you shape your pot, the water might fly out more, but you might be more able to deal more damage. It seemed like a very Double Fine idea. And I think the last multiplayer game they did was Costume Quest. That was Double Fine. Did you know that? They did Costume Quest.
I didn't know Costume Quest was Double Fine. No.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, those are
fun.
considered good games.
That was, yeah, it was quite big, I think. I'm trying to double check, Max. I always get scared when I make, you know, statements like that, and then I get scared. Yeah, it is okay. Double. It's good. So it might be the same team, you know, but it looks cute. It looks cute, man.
Yeah, it does.
What do you think about little games like this?
Bleeding Edge.
Bleeding Edge. Rip. Rest in peace.
It's gonna be another Bleeding Edge. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it makes me think of Bleeding Edge, you know, with the fact that they say it's a multiplayer team-based brawler and stuff like that. You know, that kind of makes me feel like it might be like similar to that. Obviously, I don't think there'll be like classes and shit like that, but like, yeah, it sounds like a cute little funny, unique
party
game. Yeah, exactly. And if I know Double Fine, you know, that's kind of the niche that they nail, is just making just kind of wacky but fun games. You know, yeah, looks pretty cool to me.
Bring back party games. That's what I say. And you know, it is really funny because like this sort of stuff is out of fashion for everyone that is like Nintendo will make just the most ridiculous Mario games that somehow work. Other than Mario Golf, you know, the one that I bidded for on my Fantasy Critic last year and lost loads of points on. But other than, they just do all sorts of ridiculous shit, don't they? And they managed to sell, you know, aside from the obvious parties, probably the biggest one. Like, it's probably the biggest party game out there. But it's quite a strange concept nowadays to have a first party studio make a party game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that is a bit odd. But yeah, I feel like maybe they've just given Double Fine the option to just be like, yeah, we trust you, you know, pump out whatever you want. You know, you kind of deserve this respect, this trust, you know, that you've, since you delivered Psychonauts 2 and it was such a banger. Go ahead, have a go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe let's open this conversation up to you, Tim, as well. Like, how do we now feel? Like, given, you know, we've had a couple of first parties now that have been a bit more on the experimental side, a bit more on the smaller side, and again, it maybe a bit more unconventional in what you'd expect first party studios to make. How do we kind of feel about that now that we're a couple of years into this? You know, Pentiment is one example. Maybe Bleeding Edges. I mean, that was in development so long before the acquisition anyway, so I'm hesitant to count that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, Xbox seem to have be positioning themselves in between Nintendo and PlayStation in terms of having like big tentpole, technically impressive releases, but then also like, here's a load of other wacky stuff you can play on Game Pass, and that's from our teams. Like, are you feeling good about that, or would you rather they just eliminated a lot of these and doubled down on the big stuff?
Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest. I feel like it's a little bit of both, because I feel like a lot of these wacky games that have come out from these studios, and you know, ones that may be pushing the boat out from their regular formula, they haven't really sat too well with me, like personally. Like, I don't really feel like I want to boot up and play these games. But then I'm also not the guy that's just like, oh, they didn't make a game for me, so I'm mad, you know. Like, I still appreciate, you know, it for its art form and what it's doing, and it's getting great scores, fantastic. I'm always up for developers having the chance to be creative and try new things, even if I'm not going to buy it or play it. So I'm kind of a
Mhm.
little bit one foot in and one foot out at the same time, because I would also
Mhm.
like them to spend time on games, that I would play. But I'm definitely not against it, like that's for sure. And there's been I think I had one in mind that I was
I
literally. Oh
mean,
well, I was
grounded, and you could maybe argue high.
yeah, Hi-Fi Rush was the one I was going to talk about. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
literally just thought of it as you did that. Yeah, Grounded. I've had a great time with. Again, something that probably wouldn't have happened potentially without the acquisition, or it definitely would. It might have happened, but to a much smaller scale, and then maybe it would have died in its alpha or its beta or something like that, instead of having, you know, more injected into it to have it, get to a full release and all the content it has to this day. And Hi-Fi Rush definitely being one as well. Tango Gameworks have never made a game like this at all. All they do is make
Nope.
fucking edgelord horror games, Evil Within sort of stuff. They probably went to Microsoft about this, and they were probably like, "This, it's a little bit weird, guys. Like the concept of this is nothing like we've ever seen you do." But they were confident they'd pull it off, and they, might got the green light on this project as a result of that, and it turned out to be an absolute freaking banger. Hi-Fi Rush was
Yeah.
incredible. Some of this we might have not seen. Obviously, that's quite a hypothetical thing to say. You just don't know, but like we're only in the position we are. We can only speculate. So yeah, I think I'm more for it, but I definitely have a little bit of a foot in against. To just be like, some of these games don't sit well with me, and it would be nice just to see you finish Avowed. Finish Avowed.
Yeah. Take Double Fine off kill.
Oh yeah, but
hand them over to.
no. I mean, we're talking about other studios as well. We're talking. Obsidian was an example with
Yeah.
Grounded. If Grounded never existed, maybe we'd have Avowed by now. What was that? There was that article, which was that, wasn't it? Was it about Grounded, where they were like, stop working on Grounded and finish Avowed?
Well, yeah. No, it was.
Yeah, I think
maybe it was.
I
It was
think it
something
was
like
on
that. Yeah.
Grounded. It was literally like, leave Grounded and focus on finishing Avowed, and it was just like, oof.
Yes.
Yay.
It was Ryan McCaffrey's one of his weak moments.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a good Xbox reporter, but he had a weak moment there.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Yeah, that's crazy. I think he even said take people off the Avowed team as well. Just get Obsidian off all their projects and get them on Elder Scrolls. I think they said. And turbo
Was it that?
forward.
Okay.
I think that's what he said, but yeah. Well, that's interesting to hear. That's really interesting to hear. I'm sure a lot of the community feels similarly. I just think it's quite interesting that they are taking this kind of in between approach, because obviously, while Nintendo do make some of their bigger games, I mean, I'm hesitant to even call them AAA. I mean, they is silly. I mean, that line is so silly and blurred now. It's so nebulous, isn't it? AAA, double A, because some people use that as qualifiers for like what Xbox is allowed to use to say it's had a good year, like with quality. That's like, oh, how many AAAs? It's like, what does it fucking matter? Good game's a good game, man. Like I would, like I said, I don't. Are any of Nintendo's game hitting that? They're the ones that are selling like 200K a month. Do you know what I mean? They don't really need that to succeed. So, it's just this funny old thing. And yeah, like you said, some of these more. I mean, I'm hesitant to even call them experimental. Is Grounded experimental? I don't. It's just a good survival game with a really interesting aesthetic, really, isn't it? It's just a solid and Hi-Fi Rush, and it, you could argue, do you remember we had this conversation like a lot of people really wanting to take credit away from Xbox because when a game succeeds, because they're like, oh well, it was in a development before the acquisition. It's like, are we ever going to get past this? Like, it's like, well, I found in with a scribble on it in the toilets last year, so technically it was in development before the acquisition.
I ordered a chai latte, and that's the name of the character, the first name of the character in Hi-Fi Rush. So I'm pretty sure Cafe Nero had this idea a long time ago. But
that's not Xbox's success.
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean. Yeah, and yeah, that line is becoming increasingly more blurred with AAA and AA because AAA titles can look like anything these days. You know, they don't need to be your blockbuster third person action adventure story driven, you know, or like just a all in multiplayer game. You know, they don't need to be these things anymore. They can really look like anything. So and I prefer to live in a gaming world like that. You know, there's lots more variety out there. So, and God knows I probably need to expand my horizons. I'm just being a stubborn little bitch. So yeah, a couple comments from Joaquin. Joaquin says letting their teams make small games is a good way to retain employees while also adding value to Games Pass. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah,
it's a really good point. I listened to a couple of the interviews. Sawyer, who was the Pentiment, and he was essentially like, if they don't make this game, I'm going to threaten them with leaving. And they is again quite vague. Like the Obsidian time was after the acquisition. I think it did happen around the time of the acquisition. So, you know, it's sometimes some devs want to stretch their creative the creative legs.
Yeah,
that's an expression.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, you know, these developers are human as well, and they don't want to just keep making the same shit over and over again. They're going to get bored of that, and they're going to go somewhere else that allows them to be more creative or something like that. You know, to keep them happy, to keep them working well. You know, it's good to put them on other projects. You know, passion projects, because you know the best work comes out of people when they're passionate about what they're doing. You know, so. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with what Joaquin said. And then he also says your mic is cutting in and out a little bit, Deck. He says it's not that bad, but it's noticeable. Joaquin, we are aware of this issue. Deck's laptop runs like a steaming pile of shit, so sometimes he does. It hasn't been that bad this show,
weird.
but I don't know what it is. But you do cut out every now and again.
Does it sound like it's lag, or does it sound like it's my microphone? Do you know, like, any idea?
It's hard to say. I don't think it's your microphone. No, I don't. I don't think it's your microphone's just like not picking you up sometimes because you're not moving around when you talk. You're not talking straight into it. You're very loud and you're very clear. It just seems to. I think it's just a case of your computer's just lagging. It's not working. Joaquin says not lag. It's not internet connection. I just think your laptop's just kind of chugging and keeping up sometimes. But
okay, well, because what I have done historically, I fiddled around with the input sensitivity, like to make it not automatic. So I've just turned that off again. So I'm going to fiddle around with that just to. I think that's really screwed with things before. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't sound like it's internet, that's good. It shouldn't be. My internet's fine. I'm like wired into a power line adapter. I even got a power line adapter for this.
Yeah. So. No, yeah. I think connection wise you're fine because you'd be like blurring out and stuff like that with your video. Your video's been clear as anything, so it wouldn't just be audio. But yeah, we are aware of it, Joaquin, and we do apologize for any technical difficulties.
Yeah. Thanks, man. All right, cool. Well, we'll see how it goes. This is how weak the news was last week. I had a topic for the search bar being updated on the Xbox UI.
I'm not talking about this. I refuse.
No, we're not talking about this. We've got better things to do with our lives.
Unless it's got to talk about the fucking
like. Yeah, well, this is like that's actually a really good point. But secondly, like this is one of the few times where I've been making notes for this podcast, and I've been like, "What am I doing with my life?"
You crossed it out and just put boring. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, like, talking about a search bar, like, oh my god, I've got so many better things I could be doing.
Yeah, for real.
Okay, let's move on to Halo Infinite. The Season 3 trailer dropped. Tim, I've got the link for you. It will take you to Twitter. Just have that running in the background while we have a little bit of a conversation about this.
I just want to talk about the timing of this. Joaquin literally just commented, you guys seen the Halo trailer? Looks dope. We got you covered, Joaquin, because it's literally what we're talking about. So what am I doing?
Yeah, man. Just open the link. It'll take you to Twitter. Just have it running in the background. Obviously, mute it because Twitter likes to just if you click on it, it's just like, oh, you want sound.
Yeah, you want sound at 100%, even though your PC's set to 20.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Elon.
Absolute ledge. Oh,
yeah,
God.
why don't you get rid of that?
Not used to Mac keyboards. Right. Having to switch between
in
Mac
essence,
and Windows keyboards is rough, dude.
Horrendous, isn't it? Yeah, because I've got a Windows keyboard that I usually use for if I'm working from home or for the show sometimes. And like the mapping is all fucked. Do you know what I mean? So like what's on the Windows keyboard corresponds to what's on the Mac, rather than the other way around. So like, and why are they in different places? Like, who made that? Why is speech marks in different places? Just keep it uniform.
And like the @ symbol is what gets me. The @ symbol is
my God.
Fuck me, that gets me every day. And I switch to it on like almost on the daily. I have to switch between Mac and Windows, and my brain it just can't keep up, man. It's like a fucking curly whirly. All right.
What a sweet.
Okay, I'm playing the trailer.
Thanks, man. Yeah, in essence, we knew this was coming. We knew ages ago that season 3 is due to start at the beginning of March. They released the trailer in the middle of the HCS, the competitive scene stuff. It's only 2 minutes long or something. And you know what? Looking nice.
Fire. Full disclosure, I haven't seen this yet. So.
All right. Well, go on. You just have your. You have a look.
The fucking cosmetics in the first like 10-15 seconds look absolutely fire.
I just think they look a little bit goofy, but
I like
not bad.
Like, goofy. I like that sort of stuff though. Like I like having a mix of goofy and serious armor sets. Like we have serious armor sets, so give us some more like wacky looking ones.
I think some of them are like Halo 4, Halo 5 armor sets. I think that might be why.
Yeah, those were goofy as fuck. Those armor sets, for sure. Yeah, actually, now I saw that one, it actually in action, it did look a bit weird. The one with the 2 red eyes. Yeah, it looked a bit weird. He looks like fucking Cabal from like Mortal Kombat. It looks a bit odd. Oh, yo, that map looks sick. The one where it looks like a desk. It's like a room. There's like a chair and you're fighting at a keyboard.
The art room one, yeah.
Yeah, that looked really cool. That's interesting.
Well, there is currently a community playlist in the game with just 5 Forge-made maps, but they feel like dev-made maps. Like they're amazing. They're really good. Hopefully, they just integrate these into a wider map pool. I feel like I guess that's maybe what the playlist is for, so they can try get a bit of feedback, and then if they're happy with all of them, just dunk them into the map pool. We actually good. Yeah, we managed to. Us and our friend group actually played this the other day.
Yo, no way.
Yeah, no way.
How was everyone vibing with that?
Everyone mostly sucked.
Okay,
but it was a decent time. But yes, I mean that did eventually happen. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, to summarize, there's 3 new maps with a 4th coming as well. There seems to be a Plaza remake, which is that was like the flagship map for Halo 5, if you remember it. It has like the sniper in the top corner, and there's like a street. It looked like a street. Seems to be a Forge-made version of that map coming as well. But 3 new maps on day 1. Escalation Slayer, which is essentially Halo's gun game. They had it in Master Chief Collection. And then the shroud screen equipment, the bandit, new 100 level battle pass, and then some new multiplayer narrative stuff. And this narrative stuff actually looks interesting. It looks like these are being done. These are actually like pre-rendered CGI. Some people have speculated that it was Blur doing the cinematics, but we're not sure yet. Blur being the team that did the Halo 2 anniversary cutscenes, which still look absolutely impeccable.
Yeah.
But these cutscenes look really good. It seems to be a bit of a follow-on from what happened in the last season, but with a bit more substance. That Spartan Din has been affected by the brute AI Eratus. And the speculation is that this is going to lead into the introduction of the infection mode at some point, but this is the way that it's going.
Okay.
So yeah, and there's been a lot of positive chatter. There hasn't been a lot of positive chatter around Infinite for a while, but it's kind of getting there. Like Forge is picked up momentum now. There's maps in the game. There's finally new sandbox editions coming. And this is only meant to last until like mid-June. So it sounds like the seasonal cadence is down, and there's been lots of leaked stuff as well. Loads of cool maps. One of them's like a BTB like crystal farming map, which is like where they farm the crystals for the needler. Looks great. You can shoot the crystals and they blow up. Another gun, Tim, a double-barreled shotgun in Halo.
That's cool.
I don't know if it's like a power weapon, but it's not only that, it has a mini grav ham attachment on the bottom. It's like a banished, so it's like this clunky fucking thing, and it's got like this gravity hammer, and you can melee people when it bashes them back.
Oh, that's
how cool is that?
That's very cool. Yeah. Wow.
So that's, I mean, presumably that's the season 4 thing, but season 4 is only June. You know, so like, if they get this, and this is why I kind of want to take this conversation to you in the chat as well. Like, do we think Infinite has a chance to recapture a wider audience? Maybe, you know, maybe not probably not season 3, probably not season 4, but maybe 5, 6. You know, when we're at the end of the year and it's season 6, and there's another 2, 3 weapons in the game. There's like, you know, the map pulls up to like 25, 3 more pieces of equipment, loads of new armor cores. Like, do we think Halo has a chance to recapture a bit more of a wider audience or player count?
I do think it does. Yeah. I mean, this trailer like genuinely is kind of making me want to play Halo Infinite. Like, I haven't said that for a very long time. I was adamant I would not return to Halo Infinite properly even in 2023. At least the first half of 2023. And just seeing this and knowing that this drops very soon, and in 3 months we'll be getting something of equal size, you know, maybe even more, and more cosmetics and stuff like that. And then knowing these battle passes are also timeless, you can go back to them whenever you want. You can can you purchase them whenever you want, or do you have to buy them in that season and then you can go back to it?
No, you can access them anytime you want. You have to buy them if the season is expired.
Okay, so I could not play season 3, for example, come in at season 4 with when it's got another battle pass, and I can buy the season 3 one, even though I never purchased it during season 3. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, with all these battle passes stacking up and all these cool cosmetics and stuff like that, yeah, man, I can genuinely see it recapturing an audience there, especially if this is what they're focusing on. And especially like cool fucking weapons like that. Like that's what we want. Like, we want that double barrel. Like, as cool as this like new gun is that's coming in season 3, I mean, it's still, as far as an addition to the sandbox, it's kind of a boring one, right? It's cool, but it's not the most exciting gun on the planet. A fucking double barrel shotgun with a kind of MIDI repulsor built into the bottom of it. I'm logging in to pick that up. Like, that's cool. That's cool as fuck.
That's cool. I agree.
So yeah, man. And maybe it's just the fatigue coming in from me on Overwatch a little bit, and Apex. You know, recently I've even been kind of fancying playing Apex again. So, you know, who knows? Maybe it's just my general fatigue to try something new. But it's kind of making me want to come back already. So yeah, that's good. I'm happy for it.
Good. Yeah, good. Happy to hear it. Yeah, no, it's a good old time, and it's really interesting because there's clearly a lot in the pipeline. A lot of stuff keeps getting leaked for Halo, and I don't know if this is like intentional, controlled leaking. Like, if there's just someone, you know, in the corner of the office just like
his
leaking
job.
stuff.
He's the senior leaker. That's his job.
Yeah,
senior leaker.
because it's working, at least with the hardcore community. Like on Twitter, like you know, there's definitely there's hopefulness being inspired in the community, you know. And it's a really well-rounded package now. I just think they need to, and don't get me wrong, like, it's not perfect. There are some things that need to be ironed out still. I still think it's really weird how the game reacts to quick resume. Like, stupid, it still shits itself.
Yeah.
Generally, you know, you can get around it. Like I've always said, you know, if you go back to the main menu and go back into multiplayer, it generally sorts itself out. But like, that shit shouldn't be happening with Halo.
No.
You know, it's a shame that by the sounds of it, there's no campaign DLC in the works for now. You know, there's all the controversy around the Unreal Engine versus Slipspace. What's kind of happening next, if there is anything happening next. But it's in a damn good place. And every time, like, goddamn, when you pick the game up and you load in, it just feels great. It looks great. It's so crisp. All the sounds are great. And even the sandbox feels good. There's been loads of balancing and tuning since, you know, if you haven't played the game in a year, there has been quite a lot of balancing and tuning now, like plasma rifle. Yeah, the little burst fire. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, plasma rifle. Yeah, you're right.
Way better now. Actually, legitimately good to use as a sidearm. Plasma pistol as well has had a good buff. Disruptors had a little bit of a buff. Grenades have been nerfed.
It's good.
Commando's been tweaked a few times. So's the BR. Just across the board, you know, so things feel a little bit different. And I just hope that they can really stick the landing with season 3, because they've got a good chance to bring some people back. Because especially, I think this is the good thing about how they've positioned themselves with the battle pass system, is that when people come back, as you once described it back on the show, they get to kind of open that sticker book and they get to be like, oh wow, like, I don't even have to do this battle pass right now. You know, I actually prefer the one from last season and I wasn't there. And wow, look at all this, you know, by like I said, by the end of the year, when there's 6 seasons and there's all of this, you can just kind of open that up and pick and choose.
I kind of love the idea that I've missed like a couple battle passes, but I know that when I log back in, I can buy the new one and I can also buy a different one, and I can just level up whichever one I'm sort of vibing for, and just be like, oh, I didn't realize I missed out on this, so this is actually really cool. Yeah, like you don't feel like you missed out, which is really cool. And that's what's kind of annoying me with Overwatch at the moment. I really wish Overwatch had that, because right now I'm not in the best place to sort of play that game and grind out the battle pass, but I fucking feel like I have to do it a little bit, and it's kind of annoying. But I kind of completely agree. Quick one, do we have the career leveling in this game yet? Is that a thing? Account level?
There's no account level yet. It sounds like it's either coming this season or at the beginning of season 4.
Okay, and that also means no stats yet. The stats will come with that and everything. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, that needs to be in the game, really.
That shit's fucking basic.
I say that, but we've been playing Overwatch for the last 3 months, and that doesn't have anything like that. And Apex caps out. I guess they've just introduced their new system, haven't they? Like in the last few months, where you level up per character, per legend. But for the longest time, we were capped out 500, and that was it. Like that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but you know, at least you had that initial 500.
Yes,
and never existed.
Yeah, definitely.
But yes, I agree, and yeah, Overwatch could use tweaking it too. Yeah, no, cool, man. Really cool trailer. Yeah, kind of buzzed.
Glad you liked it.
Kind of buzzed.
Good. All right. Well, let's just see what we've got, because I appreciate we're probably coming up to 2 hours now, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're over 2 hours.
Yeah, we are. We're literally approaching the 2 hour mark. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's speed run past the final 2 news stories, and then we'll finish off with the ABK stuff. So the first one was the Forza Horizon 5 Rally Adventure, the second expansion for the game. I think I actually don't know if it's just come out or just been announced. Sorry, but it's like a rally expansion. You know, you go through like off-road tracks. There's 10 new cars. They describe it as Horizon's most thrilling routes ever. Sounds cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd boot up that game every now and then. Just drive around.
Yeah, I haven't done it for a while, but yeah, I used to do it. Yeah, like I used to boot it up for just half hour, 40 minutes, drive around, do some stuff. Yeah, man. Yeah, I always have it installed. Sometimes when I'm making room on my console to download a new game, I always keep it. Like I never fling it off. and that's saying a lot considering it's like 100 fucking gig. So
yeah, that's it.
yeah.
Yeah, it does. It occupies my hard drive space all the time. And then the second bit of news is that Shinji Mikami has left Tango Gameworks, or announced it. And
Sag.
details of this remain a little bit vague, and I'm going to be trying optimistic and lean into the narrative that he's been talking about retiring for a couple of years, and that this is a retirement. But in his statement and in Bethesda's statement, it doesn't say he's retiring. It just says he's leaving. So there was talks about him wanting to make sure the new guard was ready to sort of take over, and he was worried about leaving before the studio was ready to run itself. But so the speculation is that now, maybe with the successful release of Hi-Fi Rush and the acquisition, that he feels the studio isn't going to disintegrate without him, because he founded Tango before it got acquired by Bethesda and then Meta acquired, I guess, acquired in proxy by Xbox. So essentially, to boil it down, if he's left because he's happy with the way that the studio set up, that's a good thing. Ultimately, he's a talented guy, and it's a shame that he has to leave now. But if he is happy with how it's being run, that's a good sign, if you ask me.
Yeah.
If he's leaving because he's going to go and boot up his own indie studio,
Not the best.
That's a bad look.
Yeah,
that's a bad look.
It's a very bad look. Yeah, because I'm sure they have other stuff in the works as well, and maybe he's leaving for a specific reason. Yeah. It definitely, it just depends. Right now, I think you can only take it as it is. But I think it becomes an L to say if he boots up his own studio or joins another studio as like a director or like a very high level or something like that, then it sort of manifests into a fat L. And Xbox have had like a kind of a bit of a pattern with this, haven't they? Where like people leave after Xbox Microsoft acquire them. So yeah, let's try and nip this one in the bud, Philly. Just give him the extra $100,000. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's no biggie. Satya Nadella makes like 60 mil a year. I'm sure he can, give a bit more out of his pocket. So yeah, supposedly, and like you said, this is the thing. Yes, it plays into the wider narrative. Maybe that Xbox is having a talent drain after acquisitions, and then that goes into the wider conversation of like, oh, look at all these organic acquisitions PlayStation did versus bad Xbox's inorganic acquisitions. Bad Xbox, bad. And yeah, like the talent, people leaving seems to be a result of one, short contract workers that Microsoft seems to like to work with, which is stupid. Like, that's been criticized industry wide, and I agree with it. Then it's from the initiative, which there seems to have been some creative differences there a couple of years ago, which caused a lot of people to leave. Which is a real shame, because man, they had such good, and not to say they don't now, but like they had such an immense amount of talent on that team. And obviously now Crystal Dynamics is helping. Crystal Dynamics are great, and they've still got a lot of good talent on the team, but bad luck. And there's another studio I think I'm missing, but
something happened.
It's just allowed people to draw a pattern.
Did something happen with the coalition? Did someone leave at the coalition? I feel like someone did.
I mean,
someone high.
Rod Ferguson left a few years back. He's working on Diablo now. I don't even know if they have a public face for that studio anymore. I feel like they don't.
But yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like there's some other change that happened under the umbrella of like an acquisition.
I mean, obviously 343. I mean, I know it's not an acquisition thing, but Joseph Staten's just gone off the team and gone back to game studios, and that people have been leaving that team as well. People have been fired, it seems, from that team. And is that part of why we're getting good trailers now? I don't know. It remains to be seen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think regardless, let's just see what happens with it. But yeah, I don't. There's something to be said about these changes and people leaving and people moving on to different things, right? Like right as as these acquisitions happen. So yeah, it'd kind of be interesting to see what happens with it. But regardless, I feel like even if this doesn't turn out to be one of those, I feel like we've had a few too many of this sort of stuff. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah.
But at the same time, with the amount of staff under Xbox's umbrella, it's only likely that there's going to be more people leaving. So maybe it's just an economies of scale thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Agreed.
All right, final two stories then. Let's do the Starfield one first. So we've had a couple of teasers now from insiders. The first one coming from Andy Robertson over at VGC at Video Game Chronicle. I hear the announcement for the Starfield showcase is imminent, and Jez Corden over at Windows Central also tweeted out in response to Scalzi, who's a Bethesda sort of commentator. You won't have to wait that long, in regard to an announcement or some news about the showcase. And this is where my Twitter engagement mention earlier gets a shout out, Tim.
Mm.
13 13 votes on my poll. Do you want to hear? Do you want to see what it is?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I didn't even think I didn't even think there were 13 people. Yeah, I just thought, honestly, because I've got 52 followers, and I was pretty sure 45 of them were just bots and like OnlyFans bots.
Yeah, it's true. You do get a lot of those.
Yeah, I do. So I asked, will the Starfield show be a developer direct or will it be a Bethesda show? What do you think? You tell me. What do you think? Is it going to be a? You think it's going to be a bit? Why?
I don't know. I feel like it's because we've happened in the past.
Who are you sucking off?
I feel like we've had a Bethesda show in the past. I know that we have, and I feel like they're kind of, I don't know. It's literally just based off past, of how we've handled the acquisition in the past and how we gave them their own show in the past and stuff like that, and just with how big fucking Starfield is, and the fact that we're now plastering it on our fucking Xbox cases instead of Halo and stuff like that. I think maybe they'll want to really just drill it home and be like, this is a Bethesda show, this is their game, they're making it for us, sort of thing, like, rather than doing it in a developer direct. But there's also it's hard to call, man, because the developer direct did have a really good setting. Like, it was just good, like, just the whole way they handled it. So, but I feel like it works when you're doing that with like multiple studios and switching between them and stuff like that, rather than just a single studio and a single showcase. So I don't know. I feel like it will be their own. But what do you think?
Well, it seemed the majority agreed with you. 54% said that there's going to be a Bethesda show. That's 7 people. And 46% of people said that it'll be a developer direct. If I could vote, I would have said developer direct, and that would have made it even, but I can't. Apparently that's a conflict of interest, so I can't do that. But I don't know. I have no idea why they would allow Bethesda to do. I know this is... Like, I know Xbox is meant to be hands-off and everything, but this is one of those times where I think they need to not be hands-off and do what they did with the developer direct and just feel like, okay, what you're doing, Todd, magnificent. Like, truly, this is going to be stunning. This is going to make us big money. We're going to make this, and we're going to wrap it in a developer direct package, okay? If you say no, remember who's boss. Remember who's boss. You're a little man. you make toys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it would be such a missed opportunity for them to not make this developer direct.
To just really drill home that this is the format moving forward, even for our big boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just on all fronts. Like, I don't think they need developer directs to be this thing where it's like we've got 4 or 5 games to show. It doesn't matter if it's a game that they're showing off and it's in the Xbox Bethesda umbrella. Make it a developer direct. That's even what the name is. This is one of those. When they announced it, I was like, "That's a stupid name," but this is one of those one times where that name works because it's flexible enough where it's just like it's coming directly from a developer.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I
and
mean?
it takes away all that confusion of what a show will look like and what a show's format will be that Xbox have had for the longest time. It will just drive home that this is just it moving forward. I agree that's probably the way they
Yeah.
should do it, but I really wouldn't be surprised if they were literally just like Bethesda showcase.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree with you. It's probably the way they should do it is package it into a developer direct. Yeah, even if they called it the Bethesda developer direct.
Sure. Just give it the same aesthetic, the same, visual language. That's what needs to happen, especially because they came off so hot. Like, everybody was so happy with the developer direct in
Whenever
was
it was. It
Last
was a
month?
couple months.
January? Was it January?
Yeah, it was January.
No,
yeah,
it was January. It was this year.
Yeah.
God, feels like a long time ago, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With the shadow drop, the Xbox really got a lot of attention, a lot of positive press, and that was really good and exciting. And the community loved it. A lot of the community, and I think we said the same. Like, we preferred this to the Nintendo Direct format. Very cute, very high production value. Didn't go on for too long. Lots of gameplay. A surprise shadow drop at the end. Wonderful. Great. Just do the same for Starfield. That's I beg. And you're absolutely right. Like, this is Xbox, and they drop the ball with this sort of marketing stuff all the time. It's just this time I'm like, this time from now, like, start now. Like, this is it. You've got it down. We've all said this is great. Even if you didn't plan to have it as a developer direct before, after the response of the last one, you must be looking and being like, oh, we've done something good here. We've struck a nerve. Just wrap it in the packaging. Just literally do an intro, outro, done.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. Yeah. And what do you think the odds are we get Starfield shadow dropped?
100%, 110%.
Yeah. Like, remember we did this for Hi-Fi Rush? We're doing this for Starfield.
Yeah, all the people with their physical releases and pre-orders just materialize into their room somewhere.
Yeah, we're phasing it in.
Materializes in my chest
right now. Yeah. It's whatever you do, don't use the microwave in the next 10 seconds. It's where unexpected results when we phase in the game if you're microwaving something.
Yeah.
Just don't go near it.
We're introducing our newest technology to teleport our physical games to your house. We're going to try it right now. We're hearing a lot of reports that families are dying. Cars are crashing. We phased in Starfield into your exhaust.
Yeah, you're
welcome. So I guess we didn't really think about this. I'm sorry.
Technically, you got Starfield, though.
Yeah, you're welcome. Shadow drops, am I right? So I guess I am. By the sounds of it, we're getting an announcement next week, and I would imagine the showcase is in March. It's March next week, so it could be any time in March. I mean, does that? And in the showcase, we get a release date.
Yeah, it'll be like mid late March or something like that. 100%. And yes, we'll get a release date. If we don't get a release date, I'm convinced it's not real. I'm convinced it's just the biggest.
It's not real.
April Fools ever. Like, in April, they're going to say April Fools. Starfield doesn't exist.
That'd be great. Todd doesn't exist. He's just an android. It's just a front.
Mate.
What they called in Fallout? Synths. They're called synths, aren't they?
Synths.
It's just a synth. Well, I feel like there's a time and a place to go into that a bit further, but I don't think it's now. What I would like to ask you very briefly, Tim, is kind of what you'd like to see as the final thing for this Starfield topic. What you'd like to see for this, given that this will probably be the the final or the second final Starfield showing, with the last one being maybe E3. Like, what do you need to see? Or what do you think the general public needs to see?
Just extended gameplay, something that isn't sizzle reel. Just like a segment of a mission, or like 10, maybe like 10 minutes or something like that, where we can really analyze everything going on from A to B. Combat, traversal, going into your inventory, checking out all your stats, your perks, all that kind of stuff. Just give us some extended gameplay, because all we've had so far is cuts and edits and sizzle reel stuff, and then just follow that up with a release date. Like that's all I need for now, and we'll digest all that. And, yeah,
cool. The only thing that I'd add on that is a bit more reassurance on the performance front.
Yeah, but I think that will come with the extended gameplay. Like, if you see it and it runs well and stuff like that, that's what I meant by like analyzing it and stuff like that. But yeah,
Right,
agreed. Yeah, but what you want them to actively state, like performance modes, like, well, we have something running at 60, we have something running at 30. Is that what you want?
That would be great, but no, I don't mean like that necessarily. I just mean like in the gameplay they show us for it to be running a bit smoother.
Yeah.
It was a little bit choppy in the previous one before,
Yeah.
running smoother. Yeah, it'd be great if they could say, "Oh, it's running at 60th." That would be great, but I doubt we'll get that at this stage.
Yeah, no, agreed. But yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we'll come on to our final story for today, which was around the Microsoft conference in Brussels, around the ABK acquisition. There were lots of participants there, Tim. It was a big deal. I bet it would have been fun to listen into. A lot of journalists got to go, I think, to a press briefing afterwards. But like Sony was there. There were big publishers there. There were regulators there. It was crazy. But I've made a nice little too long didn't read. And in essence, the breakdown that Brad Smith, the sort of the lead lawyer over at Microsoft, gave was the sales of Xbox versus PlayStation worldwide. And this is overall, bear in mind, this is like estimated overall market share rather than necessarily just this gen, because Xbox has been performing better this gen than these numbers. But in essence, very quickly to skim over the top, in Europe, it's 80-20 in favor of PlayStation. These are all in favor of PlayStation. Japan 96-4, global 70-30.
Yeah,
they obviously haven't listed America because America's the one that they're the most competitive in, and we have to be playing, knife and daggers, smoke and mirrors all the time to try and deceive one another and pretend that we're not hiding stats where it's convenient. But whatever. And the funny thing, at end of 2022 sales, 69-31 in favor of PlayStation. So that's really interesting. They announced official binding contracts with Nintendo and GeoForce now. They also seemed to indicate that they aren't interested in any divestiture, so like selling off COD and just keeping Blizzard and King. They've said like, nah, pretty much we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And finally, this didn't necessarily come from the conference, but it came just afterwards, that China seemed to be looking to approve the deal, according to a local lawyer. So, I mean, anything there jumping off the page as something that looks fun?
No, nothing about this is fun. Yeah, I mean, everything there is information we already know, and nothing there shocks me that PlayStation obviously have market share in a lot of these areas, and overall global market share is just generally quite higher. The GeForce Now and Nintendo stuff, obviously we saw announced. It's a great look. They always signed it off with, our promise to delivering COD to more gamers and more platforms, all that sort of stuff. It's a great look. I do like the Xbox have shown no interest in divestiture and chopping off certain segments of it. Like, I do think that shows confidence in the fact that they think they can win it, and they should win it, based on everything going on. And I just think it's a good look. Yeah.
I guess one of the important, I would say overall, the most important thing that came out of it is probably the GeoForce. Sorry, GeoForce now. I mean, it is NVIDIA. It's the NVIDIA, the partnership, because NVIDIA were previously opposed to the deal, and now they're not. You know, Microsoft found a way to make them, bend
Get
the
on
knee
board.
essentially.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's right. And now what that means is that combined between Nintendo and NVIDIA, Xbox Call of Duty has accessibility to more gamers than it would do than if the deal didn't go through. Do you see what I mean? So now,
Yeah.
like, there's this cost balance thing because they've signed binding contracts. And also, it's because one of the main concerns coming from the regulators was around, like, Xbox being dominant in the cloud space. And we've spoken about this before.
No relevance.
You know, like in some future where Xbox are the only emerging force in cloud, and cloud gets technically proficient enough where people can just stream and they don't need local hardware, like in that specific contingent of an outcome, that would make Xbox very, very dominant. But them signing this deal with NVIDIA essentially means it's quite a serious thing. They're like, wait, they've said they can have all of our Xbox PC games to stream through. And the details of that are fuzzy. Like, does that mean that they're going to put Game Pass on NVIDIA? I mean, I know NVIDIA is its own streaming service, but like, or are they just going to be on there natively and Xbox is just going to take a cut of the sales? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
But that's quite a big deal. It's the equivalent of Xbox just putting a lot of their games on like PlayStation, but in the cloud market. They're just giving it to a competitor.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Xbox are it's ticking all the boxes they need to, in favor of them looking to get this deal approved. And yeah, managing to convince someone who otherwise wasn't on board until recently is obviously quite a feat in itself. And yeah, I mean, it's looking good based off that, based off the steps taken and the contract signed and everything that Xbox is doing now and getting things moving. I would say it's leaning probably in favor of it going through, whereas a few weeks ago maybe I would have said probably not. But you can't really argue with these sort of things sometimes, because especially when really the crux of the deal being blocked is a case of how was it first sort of fought, on the fact that they're fighting it for the players, right? And stuff like that, weren't they? And it's just like, if anything, this deal going through is showing that it's only going to benefit, right? So it being blocked is doing quite the opposite of why this even started in the first place. So, yeah.
It's also started off the back of that. It started kind of an interesting conversation about, like, if it doesn't go through, have bridges been burnt between Activision Blizzard and Sony? Because we keep talking about this as if Xbox are going to take COD off PlayStation, which we know they're not. Brand Smith turned up with the contract at the conference, and he was like, "It's here to sign if you want to do it." And obviously, Sony are saying no because they don't want it to go through at all, rather than actually working with Microsoft. Which, of course, you're all slaves to your shareholders because we live in a fucking dystopia. But whether it does or doesn't, it's just quite funny. If because some people are really under the impression that if the deal doesn't go through, Activision Blizzard are just going to pull support or pull a lot of support from PlayStation. I mean, where would you kind of sit on that? Like, for example, like, do you think they would pull marketing support away from PlayStation just out of frustration with the organization and the leadership.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, maybe they're not. Maybe they don't have the power to do that. You know, it depends on the contract they signed with PlayStation in terms of marketing rights moving forward and for how many years and stuff like that. So they might not have the option to do that. Obviously, a complete purchase from Xbox, or whatever, will make that void. But I think if that doesn't go through, you know, maybe they don't have the they don't have the ability to just do that properly, I would imagine. But they probably like to, no doubt in my mind. But yeah.
Yeah, so that's all the latest developments, really. I'm interested to hear what regulators will be responding with. I don't know when that will happen, but man, like we're still a long way out. I mean, this was an important step, but we're a long way out from any, you know, especially if regulators keep pushing back. So it's another watch this space, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Before we wind the show down, Tim, do we have anything in the chat that we need to go over?
Yeah, I was literally about to say Joaquin's made a couple comments. He said, I will say I thought it was a strong statement to say that of regulators blocking the merger, that they cement Sony's position as market leader, but by passing it gives 150 million more players the chance to play. Yeah, agreed, which is kind of what I said in a really poor way, is, you know, the deal all came about, you know, for the players, you know, and making sure this doesn't fall into a monopoly, and, you know, taking access of Call of Duty away, putting it only on PlayStation, locking it behind all this, when so far it's only proved that it's going to reach more players, which completely just goes against just exactly why this all started in the first place. If they were to block it, it's just a weird play, and I feel like they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Obviously they still have the argument of the future, and, you know, Xbox are playing ball for now, but what are their plans with it for the future, right? But yeah,
future.
We do agree. And then he also put he's 50-50 on it, I imagine, going through. If the EU passes it, then I'm in, but if they block it, it's over, in my opinion. But he's 50-50.
Yeah, and it comes down to, I mean, more so that I think the EU are more flexible. I say, and more comes down to the CMA. I mean, maybe I'm just biased, but like, I don't think Xbox would go through if they lost the whole market. If they lost the whole UK market, because it's like, I think a lot of people have been saying this for a while. Like, if they can win over one of the regulators, it's done. Like, if they can win over the CMA, it's done. If they can win over the EU, it's also done. I think they're all kind of waiting on each other, so they can, they have more rationale for their decision.
Yeah.
And beside that, like, they didn't share UK numbers, I don't think, in the presentation. Like they said, in Europe, it's 80-20, which, by the way, is much larger than I thought it was. I knew PlayStation was dominant in Europe, but I think it's just that FIFA marketing is really doing a number, and I think COD is especially popular. So again, both of those marketing deals are really having a big impact. But I think the UK is a bit closer, not by much. Maybe 70-30, maybe 65. No, maybe 70-30, because that's the global number. So probably not higher than that. So again, like, if I feel like they'd be just as likely to go ahead without Europe as they would without UK, which is to say, not at all. Not likely at all. I think if either of those markets get blocked, I think the whole thing's over. In short, I agree.
It's going to be a massive domino effect based on one person's decision. One decision.
That's right. All right, we did it. Been a long show. Thanks everyone for sticking with us. You will find us on our regular podcasting services if you want to watch this afterwards, or listen to this afterwards, should I say. We'd really appreciate a like or a subscription if you're new here. That would be really good. Let us know, is this time better for you?
Yeah.
This time of the day? Would an hour later be a bit better? Or is this good? We'll see. And also, Tim, I'm meant to have this conversation with you. Maybe next time we have a conversation. I'm open to the idea of doing like shorter shows as well, shorter, more compact shows, everyone. So I'm interested in hearing, like, do you would you like us to just be a bit more quippy for an hour, or do you like these longer in-depth shows? Because I know a lot of people do these like hours-long shows. Are we just replicating that? Give us some feedback. Let us know.
Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because I do like goofing off and going off topic a little bit. But I won't lie that after an hour and a half, that my attention span and my ability to make any good comments is just fucking plummets, dude. After like an hour and a half. Yeah. So yeah. Later the better, says Joaquin, and then he says longer and later. So Joaquin's really piping up.
Longer.
No. It's like he likes
So
the longer
content.
format, like what we've got now.
Oh.
Like he doesn't want it longer. Like you prefer it as it is now than to have an hour more concise one. It's nice to have a bit of breathing room and to goof off a little bit. So yeah, agreed. But any more than 2 hours and I start to rot, dude. I start to become one of the clickers from Last of Us.
Got that scarlet rot, dude.
Yeah.
We'll discuss off there. That's fine. But yeah, thanks everyone. We will catch you next week, I'm sure. Hopefully we have that developer direct and not Bethesda showcase for Starfield.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Bye everyone. Bye.
Everyone, ciao.